All right, everyone. So, welcome back again. We were live a few minutes ago and realized that we were not on some of our platforms, and so we had to get back, get out of the studio and get back in. Sorry about that. If you had joined us before, all right. I hope you get in here. I hope you get in here to join us in the session proper. We're going to be here for a very few minutes today because the show is supposed to be for about 20 or 30 minutes tops. And we already had to stop the show that we had started. Welcome to the How Can I Support My Child series. In that series where we answer questions that parents ask about how they can be the best, how they can be supportive parents to their children. We do not take it for granted that parenting is not a walk in the park. We know, okay, we know that parenting is something that needs our attention, needs our attention, needs our intentionality, and that there's so many things that are calling for our attention, isn't it? Now, if we're going to keep saying, I don't have time because of the many things calling for our attention, sadly enough, the casualty when that is the case is actually the child. It's usually our children that suffer when we cannot keep up with our parenting responsibility. And so this is why we put up shows like this, because we know that sometimes parents struggle, parents have questions, and they would just it would be just so helpful if we can get people who can answer some of these questions without the parents having to go far and wide to get answers. All right, so that's why we started this show. All right, to answer the questions that parents ask us every now and then. All right, so we share tips, tools, strategies that you can use, that you can apply, right, to solve those parenting problems in practical terms. Now, we also know that a 30 minutes or 20 minutes show is not enough for you to get all that you need. Parenting needs some hand holding. You need a community of parents who are sharing, all right, their experiences. Shared experiences is amazing, right? Shared experiences is amazing. And having a community where you can share your experiences and learn from other people's experiences is what every 21st century parent should leverage on. So, yes, go get yourself a parenting community. I have one. Okay, I belong to one robust one. So, if you want me to introduce you, send me a message and I will introduce you to the inner circle where I belong and where we're doing great things. All right, the TIP inner circle. So, that's it. All right, so you can reach out or you can find out how to get into that circle and join us in the next cohort. And yes, your journey is not your child's journey, dear parents. All right, so while you are doing and working that journey, there is a stage where your children get to, and the children need to identify with their own journeys. Yes, there is a stage that our children get to, but the children need to understand that they have become the captain of their lives and that every other person supporting them is a co-pilot. So that stage is where your children need to start making intentional effort towards becoming the best versions of themselves. So as you are working to be that excellent parent that your children need, I didn't say perfect, the excellent parents that your children deserve, you want your children to also be working so that they can also transform themselves, because by and large it doesn't matter what we do for our children if the children don't get to the point where they begin to motivate themselves. Self motivation, there a stage will get after all the effort that we have made. If the child cannot pick it from there and run on their own, then we cannot achieve all that we want to see in the child, or the child cannot achieve their full potential. So today parents have asked what they can do. What can I do to help my young child transition from a dependent learner to an independent learner? What do I do? All right. And when we're talking about our children transitioning, or we're talking about our children as dependent or independent learners, we are not talking just about them learning in school. We're talking about our children learning everywhere. I hope by now you have identified and you have won your badge as your child's teacher. You have won your badge as your child's first and your child's most important teacher. Please, dear parents, that is a role that God has given to us, to be teachers to our children. because our children will first see the world through our eyes. Our children will build their mindset from our convictions. So, yes, have you equipped yourself enough? Have you positioned yourself enough? Have you identified with your own mindset? Have you identified with your beliefs, your values, and your ideologies? If you do not identify with this, then you are neither here nor there, because you will be confusing your child as much as you are confused. Because if you have not identified what your values are, you have not identified what your convictions are, what your mindset, what kind of mindset, mindset basically you have, and what passion and what the things that drive you are, then it means that you're just going to be winging things with your children, because you're neither here nor there. You don't know what drives you. You don't know what your values are. You don't know all of these things. So what are you going to be passing down to your children? You will be passing down what exactly you do not know. So the first thing is, you as a parent, to find you as a parent, identify with you, become aware of who you are. When you do this, it's easy for you to now begin to step down and pass down all of this to your children. All right. So, yes, how can we get them to that point what do we do to help them transition from being dependent on us solely to them becoming dependent on themselves? All right. So the moment your children are born, right, they were built, or the moment children are born, our children are born, they're built to become independent. All right. So from day one, nature is going to help your child. Nature is going to pull your child to independence. Nature is going to equip your child for independence. So, the first thing you want to do as a parent is make sure that you do not become a barrier to your child's journey towards independence. All right, so that's the first thing. It's a short show, so we're getting right into it. All right, we're going right into it because it's a short show. We will do this and then we'll be out of here in the next 15 minutes or less. All right. So, number one thing to help your child transition from being dependent to being independent is that you do not become a stumbling block to the child's, journey towards independence. And as I said, naturally, nature is going to pull your child towards becoming dependent, or independent rather. So, yes, if you are a child, parent of a young child, your child is 6, your child is 7. What would have happened is, in the first 6 years of their lives, nature must have been trying all within its power, okay, because that's how God has designed it. So nature would have been trying all within its power to make your child dependent, because there are different phases in the child's life. There are different periods in the child's life, in those first 6 years, where your child is drawn naturally to a particular skill, or yes, to a particular skill or a particular way of doing things, just so that they can build the muscle, or they can build the stamina, or they can build the skills that they need to achieve or to navigate life on their own. So at some point, your child will be building, nature will be trying to help your child build their muscles, so that your children are able to move freely and do the things that they need to do. As human beings, we need to move to create, we need to move to build, we need to move to get things to happen. Okay, so movement is a part of, is a part of development, okay, for human beings. Movement is a part of what we are born for. All right. So, all things being equal, there are no physical challenges, there are no developmental challenges. What will happen is nature will pull your child naturally to get this part, to get this skill, so that they can move and create and become. So, yes, at some point, that is why you do not need to take a child through any kind of practice for the child to actually start crawling. Nature will pull the child naturally to start crawling. All right. And now your part is, because the child is in that place, the child is in that natural, season, right? So the child is in that natural season where nature has pulled them to start crawling. What do? You stimulate that environment so much that the child is crawling consistently. You stimulate that environment so much that the child is invited to crawl. You stimulate that environment so much that the child has a reason to crawl. You create so much fun in that environment that crawling becomes an activity that gives your child a sense of satisfaction. All right, so when that is the case, you realize that your child is going to do this more frequently. Your child is going to be consistently trying to crawl, and it's with practice and consistency that we gain mastery. So when your child's environment is stimulated at the stage where the child is naturally pulled towards that skill or pulled towards achieving that part of learning, what will happen is the child would actually gain mastery faster, as opposed to a child who is not being put, the child who is not getting the opportunity. So what happens usually, right, is when you as a parent now comes in between nature's natural pull. All right, nature's natural pull, you come between nature and your child. So what you do is you become an inhibitor. All right, how do you do that? When you don't allow your child to crawl or practice crawling because you do not want them to dirty their hands. When you don't allow them jump, okay, so the child is standing on the chair and wanting to jump because nature is pulling him to jump, because it is when he jumps that he develops, or that he refines that muscle, the big muscle of his legs. It is when he's jumping that that those muscles, right, are being strengthened. It is when he's doing this that muscle is actually becoming, more and more refined, and mastery is going on. So, but for us, all we see when they are jumping is, oh, he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured. So rather than he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured, what you want to do is you want to create a safe environment, and you want to create a safe opportunity for the child to jump. All right, you want to create a safe opportunity for the child to get to do that activity in a safe way. Okay, and so the more the child does that activity in a safe way, all right, the more the child gains mastery, and the child is consistently practicing that skill, and so the child becomes good, or an expert, or the child masters that skill because of the practice and the consistency in doing it. And this is happening because you have created a stimulating environment for the child to continuously do this. Now, you have noticed, you have paid attention, and you can see that, oh, the child is in the window period for the child to develop this skill, because the child is going to need it in the future to navigate life, and you have done something to promote it. So when this is the case, we say you are not a stumbling block in your child's development. But when you notice that the child is continuously jumping, and you are irritated by the fact that the child does not understand safety, or the child wants to spoil your chair, or the child wants to harm themselves, or the child is stubborn and doesn't listen, or the child is hyperactive, all of the stereotypes and all of the names that we call to explain something that is natural, simply because we do not understand it, or we have refused to learn so that we can understand it. Now, this becomes a problem, because at this point, you become the village people that are trying to stop your child to be everything that they are meant to be. You will become the village person that is trying to stop the child from transitioning from an independent learner to from a dependent learner, to an independent one. So yes, number one is to ensure that you stimulate, that you are present, and that you promote your child's learning, or you promote your child's growth and development by creating a stimulating environment in your home, and not becoming the stumbling block in the child's progress. So yes, you can be an advantage or a stumbling block to your child's progress in moving from being dependent to becoming independent. All right, so that's number one. Number two is when you stop your child's sense of curiosity. All right, when you stop your child's sense of curiosity, you are going to inhibit the child also. All right, you're going to inhibit the child when the child is not allowed to, be curious. So another way to help your child move from being dependent to becoming independent is that you start early. When your child is a toddler, remember, you want to start working on this by the time your child is a young child. So when the child is a toddler, you want to start going in there and helping the child to explore whatever they are curious about. So pay attention and you will see the things that your child is curious about. Now you can still have, if this curiosity or this curiosity or this instinctive behavior, all right, your child's instincts, if their instincts have not been shut down and their curiosity have been allowed to gain expression, even at 6 and 7, you will see your child always trying to figure out stuff. You will see your child always trying new things. You will see your child always trying to piece things together. You will see the child always trying to make sense of stuff. You will see them always trying to create. And you know something, I can see this so well. I have two children who are completely different, okay, and I can tell, right, I can tell that some of the difference that we see in them today, apart from them being two people of different personalities and temperaments and all of that, I can also see that the way that we have raised them, right, is also part of why we can see some difference between them. So I tell you something, our son used to be like this really hyper boisterous child all over the place. He would ride his scooter all over the living room, and all of that. Now it used to be really cute when he was much younger, right? It was cute when he was much younger, to just have him be all over the place and all of that. Now, as he grew older, it wasn't so cute anymore, right? Because it was more like, can't you see that there are guests in the house? Can't you see that we are busy? Can't you see this? Can't you see that? So all of those natural instincts or natural, all of those, I want to play, I want to jump, I want to have fun, I want to do all of those things. We started because we didn't know any better at the time. So we started, all of the, scolding and stopping and, the frequent stop it, stop it, stop it. So I think by the time he was 3, 4, all right, by the time he was 4, more like 4, 5, he started hearing a lot of this. Stop it, don't do that, leave it, move away from there. I will knock you. All the threats, all the yelling, all the shouting, all the inhibition, all the stopping, and all of that. And so he was beginning to get into trouble too many times as a result of him just trying to be curious, trying to explore, and trying to be, the energetic child that he was. At the time, that was nature calling him. That was nature actually pulling him to developing different parts of, developing different skills basically that will help him navigate the world. That was nature calling him to understand his environment. That was nature calling him to build his big muscles and all of that. That was nature calling him to use his voice, because he would play and he would talk and talk and talk and talk, and then at some point we'll be like, it's okay, you're talking too much and all of that. So that was nature allowing him to gain expression and all of that. But we inhibited him and we stopped him a lot and all of that. By the time I started learning, and understanding all of these things more, okay, by the time I started understanding these things in deeper terms, okay, he was already somewhere around 6 thereabout. All right, so the first few years, yes, everything was cool, we had time, and all of that. But after that, it became a lot of, okay, you're getting older, you should behave better, you should act better, it's not all about play, it's all, and so all of those pushing backs and pushbacks and all of that, stopped him and made him become a little withdrawn. So yes, he was now becoming more conscious of not getting into trouble than it was that he wanted to express himself, or that he wanted to just be and have fun and just, explore things that he was curious about. All right. So by the time we started getting knowledge that he was 6 and 7, all right, we started doing a lot of repairing. But the truth about it is, That's the thing. All right. That's the thing. When we don't know these things and when we are ignorant, it actually leaves our children traumatized in some cases. Okay, it inhibits them in many cases, and then it pulls them back, in their growth and development journey, basically. And so it becomes more difficult for you to teach them, these things, or to allow them get back to that place where they want to learn that much when they are already 7 and 8. All right, the older they become, the more difficult it is for them to learn those things, because in those first 6 years, those things come to them in the finest and in the most authentic and natural way. So our children learn in those 5 6 years without stressing. They learn in those 5 6 years without making too much effort. Nature is putting them to learn. Nature pulls them to learn in the most easy way. That's why your children can learn up to how many, 8 or 10 languages before they turn. In those 6 years, your children can learn as many languages as you can offer. I'm sure you'll be offering them 20 languages. Those 3 4 5 6 languages, if only we knew, they can actually learn them simultaneously in those 6 years, because that the window period for language is right there in those 6 years. And so any language that the child is learning, the child will learn with the most ease, during this period. So I noticed it, we noticed this with our son. And by the time we started repairing, of course, it was more difficult because he already had some social gaps in his social skills. He already had some gaps, when it comes to, trusting and believing in himself. He started even withdrawing, and he didn't want to do performances in school. He didn't want to do anything that shone the spotlight on him at the time. He didn't want to, because I guess he heard too many, stop it, you will not hear, you do too much, yeah, stop talking, stop this one, you say enough, you talk too much. He heard that so much that I think at some point his brain started telling him, when he wanted to express himself, keep quiet. And that's the thing with our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind will begin to feed us with the experiences that we've had just to protect us. So at that point, the child wants to be free and express themselves. The subconscious mind reminds the child, so you don't not remember the last time you tried this, you got into trouble. So basically, the child just withdraws and doesn't, because the child is more afraid of making mistakes or getting into trouble than they are of expressing themselves and exploring. All right, so that's it. Now, on the other hand, our daughter came, and when our daughter came, we already had started this journey of knowledge and all of that. And so our daughter was hardly even inhibited. Our daughter was allowed to explore her curiosity. Our daughter was allowed to do, so we just had our boundaries. We had, because we're more intentional. So there were boundaries, there were routines. We had a lot of routines, we had boundaries, we had structure in place, and all of that. And so all we needed to do was put the structure and all of those systems in place. And then we allowed her freedom within those structures. We allowed her freedom within the system that we had created. And so she didn't get the many pushback. She didn't get, all the pushback that he got and all of that. So if you see our daughter, she's not afraid to create. She's not afraid to start something new. She's not afraid to make something out of nothing. She's not afraid to express how she feels per time. She's not afraid to be in front of the crowd. She wants the attention. So she is not afraid of even making mistakes. She makes her mistakes, she apologizes, and then she tries again. You will see that all of those inhibitions she didn't get. And so she didn't get those experiences. And so her subconscious mind doesn't feed her with those experiences. And so it's so easy, or it's easier with her. Now, for our son, we had to work so hard, extra hard. As I speak, we are still a work in progress in certain areas. And I started working this journey. We started working this journey. At least I started working this journey when it was somewhere around 6. It took some time before daddy started understanding and came on the same page with me. It took some time, but then again, what I'm saying is this journey has been on since he was 6, and our son is 15, almost 15. He's 14 today, and we have been able to overturn certain things. We're still a work in progress in certain things and all of that. And that's it. If we don't get these things right, our children suffer and it takes a lot longer, right, for us to overturn. And that's for those of us who find ourselves along the line and then we gain or get knowledge and we begin to do right by the child. For some of us, we will be there continuously arguing and telling us how, I mean, we'll continue to argue and talk about how we turned out right and our parents did this and did that and what did it happen? I mean, all of that. While you're doing that, the trauma, the damage, and all of that that is happening with the children will be happening, and we'll explain it as children being children. Dear parents, that's not always the case. You need to come closer, x-ray, and you will see that there are gaps that these children have as a result of how we have parented them, that we need to start helping them unlearn. All right, so yes, your children will create, if we don't inhibit them and we allow them, right, to express their curiosity and exploration, nudges, the nudge to explore, allow them and all of that. And so now the next thing we want to do is you want to start setting small goals for the children. If you want them to transition from being dependent to becoming independent, you want to start setting small goals. By the time they are 4 and 5, you should start. Now I'll give you an example with their schoolwork. So our children, we start helping them learn independence. We did that a lot for our daughter. All right, we start helping them learn even for our son, we did that a lot of, the independence, because for us, we caught it early, knowing that our children can be independent and our children can get to do things on their own, as early as possible. Now, maybe not cooking and all of that at the time, we didn't know that. But when it comes to their schoolwork, their homework, and helping themselves or directing themselves in that area, we caught that really early. So what we start doing is when the children are somewhere around 4 o'clock, so 4 years old, of course, our children are in Nigeria. So they go to schools in Nigeria where they start, having little tasks like writing, counting, blending and all of that by the time they are 4. All right. So by the time they are 4, all of that. So they are beginning to bring home, the little homework and all of that. Thank God for the kind of school they went to. So at least they understood that the children shouldn't be bombarded with a lot. So they came in with, the scribbling, try letter formations, and all of that. And then arithmetic sense, right? All of those basic arithmetic, they come with it, 1 + 1, 2 + 4, and all of that. So what do? We make sure that we help our children create authenticity, or we create authentic experiences out of what it is that they are learning from school. So whatever it is that they learn from school, when they come home, we try to use the natural things in our environment to reinforce what it is that they learn in school. So the children learn science and we try everything within our power. So I started creating models with my children. I would get styrofoam when I go out. Styrofoam are those white things that comes in packed items, gadgets and all of that. The white thing that they use to cushion so that it doesn't break. So that's what styrofoam is. I know a lot of you know, but maybe there's someone there that doesn't know what a styrofoam is. So we will get that and we will create models of the things that the children are learning in school. Okay. Other times we will actually go for nature walks. We will use everything, things at home, things in the environment, nature, and all of that, just to reinforce, right, what they are learning so that our children can connect with what they are learning in school, so that schoolwork is not an abstract thing to them. Schoolwork has tangibility. A lot of times the school may not be able to do this depending on the kind of school that your children go to. All right. And because of the number that the schools have to deal with, they may not be able to put that much authenticity into what the children are doing. Our children were lucky, their school was hands-on and they try. But when they come home, we try to reinforce by making everything relatable. We bring it home to nature and reality and all of that. And so when you meet our children, especially our daughter does not define anything. Like, what is a nan? And then she goes, a nan is the name of a nan. She doesn't know how to do that. Our daughter explains things to you. She creates pictures of what she's learning for you. So when our daughter wants to explain something to you, she will say to you, okay, so for instance, you have a cup and you have this. She actually would create a scenario. So she has depth in her understanding of whatever it is that she's learning. So when you are teaching her, You will continue to get questions. You will continue to get questions. And even her teacher, she will go back to them because she needs to create a picture of what you are teaching her in her head. Because we took her through, trying to make learning authentic. So even if it's math, right? I remember back then when they come in, we pull the basket. We always had a basket of fruits in the kitchen. So when my daughter comes with her question papers, the what do you call it, worksheets from school. Okay, I pull the basket, and we sit down there in the kitchen. Sometimes we sit on the floor in the kitchen and we use the basket of oranges or whatever it is to make sense of what it is she's learning in math. All right. If we're not using that, we're going for nature walks and we're using the trees and using the plants and using everything that we see just to make it authentic, and all of that. So gradually, from working with her, right, I begin to take excuses. I'll take excuses and I will leave her and tell her to do number 2 and number 3. Okay, why I go to my room to do something or I pick something in the room and all of that. By the time I come back, you notice she's done number 2 on her own and she's done number 3. And then you come and then you escalate it. Oh my goodness, look at all the effort you put into this and see how it is so rewarding because you got it right. Okay, the moment you start doing this, what is happening is your child begins to learn, or your child begins to believe in their own ability. Your child begins to believe your child is winning. We become champions because we have won. All right. So sometimes we call our children all those, wonderful names. We affirm them. We call them beautiful names. Okay. But then these beautiful names, are they really, can the child see themselves like these beautiful names? I know you want to affirm them. You want them to think big of themselves. Okay. But while you are trying to make them feel big about themselves, you need to make sure that it is real. Now, it is realer when the child actually achieved that thing through their own efforts and you are calling them the name of that achievement. Now, when you call them this kind of name, it becomes real. It becomes surreal because the child actually achieved that. So that's how you win. That's how you become a champion. You become a champion by winning. All right. So those little things, the efforts that they make. Hi, Akudo, how are you doing? So those little efforts that they make when they actually go out of their way to initiate a task, when they actually start something and they finish it on their own. All right. You want to praise the effort. Do you know what it means to start and finish a task? It may be a small task to you, but that's it. Your child is already learning the skill of starting and finishing. Because when they transition from becoming dependent to becoming independent, what it entails is that they're able to take initiative, they're able to begin the task, and they're able to see it through. That is when you say the child is independent, because now the child is able to initiate, the child is able to stay on task, and the child is able to complete tasks. Now the child is independent or can learn or practice independently. And that's where you're trying to go. So these are ways to help your children transition easily from becoming dependent to independent learners. All right. Now, the next one you want to do is I have said set small goals. So what we just did there was setting small goals for them. You have done number 1, you leave them to do number 2 and number 3. And then other times you want to add a little problem to it. Other times you want to ask open-ended question. Okay, so this number 4, what do you think you can do to achieve it? And then explain to me how you're going to go about it. And then you have put the child in that place where the child is beginning to think critically and the child is answering and giving you answers based on their critical analysis or critical, thoughts about that thing. So, when you do this, you're setting them and you're setting small goals basically for them to achieve. All right. So the next one is you want to encourage your children to solve problems. How do you encourage them to solve problems? By helping them answer their own questions first before you offer. So, dear parents, always learn or know what your child knows about something first before you add your own knowledge to it. So when your children bring questions to you, throw the questions back to them in a friendly way. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what do you think? Restructure it and ask them the question again so that they can, when you do that, you help the child tap into their memory. Okay, it's an executive functioning skill, right? Working memory, where children are able to take past experiences and connect it to a problem that they have and use their past experience to solve the problem that they have in the present. Okay, so you want to send that question so that the child can go back in their store or in their memory. They can go back to their memory and find an experience that they've had in the past that they can connect to this new experience in order for them to solve the problem. So you want to get them into that space, by doing this and asking them open-ended questions and throwing their own questions back to them is a great way to do this. All right. And when you do this, you're already getting your children to the point where they are solving their own problems. So the more they solve their own problems and then they finish, and then you can say, oh, that's it, you got it just right. And then you can add your perspective to it. And that way your child has solved a problem on their own, and then they have the gift of the extra perspective that you have added right to that question, and that's it. Your child is there building their store of knowledge and ready to run on their own even without you. All right, the next one is, I have talked about that, curiosity and exploration. And then the last one I'm going to be sharing is you creating positive experiences. All right, so you want to create positive experiences around your child's learning. Create lots and lots of positive experiences. So I say when we go for nature work, that's also creating positive experiences. Okay, when you take your children on excursions, that's you creating positive experiences. So when the schools tell you they want your children to do this, they want them to do this experiment, or they want them to do this adventure, go on this adventure, they want to go for this field trip and all of that. That's the school collaborating with you to create positive experiences. As much as possible, if you can afford it or it's safe, let them be a part of this. And then at home, create small projects that you can do together, right, that will create the positive experiences. So the more that your children do this, create this positive experience, the more your children enjoy learning, because now learning to your child is not a chore. Learning to your child is play. Every time your child is doing an activity and getting a sense of satisfaction from it, your child is playing. Playing is the language of fun, is the language of learning, is the language of love for your child. All right. And then, of course, the hands is an instrument of the brain. So basically, the more your child is doing, the more your child is connecting to the brain. The more your child is moving, the more your child is connecting to their brain growth. The more your child is using their hands, the more is connected to their brain, to their brain development, basically. And the more your child is getting fun from getting a sense of fun or satisfaction from an activity, the more your child wants to do that activity. This is how you get your children to love and enjoy learning, because it's now an activity that brings a sense of satisfaction. It is now your child using the instrument that is his hand to develop his brain. It is now your child having fun and your child feeling loved and your child playing, okay, basically. And that's what schoolwork and whatever learning you're taking your child through, that's where it begins. Now when this is the case, then your child becomes a natural or a lifelong learner, because your child is open to learning. Your child wants to learn all the time. The child sees learning as fun and all of that. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is now using brain teasers that will pull and stretch your children and will help your children exercise their brains, especially their brain cells, basically. Do you know that there are certain activities that your children would do, activities that stretch your children, activities that make your children drag and pull and stretch themselves? These activities help them to help neural connections. There are certain neural connections that these activities activate in your child's brain. Now, if your children don't do activities that stretch them, those cells are not activated. All right, so you want to do that. The more they do this, the more learning, the more powerful their brains, the more the brains is exercised, and all of that. It's like Usain Bolt or, Messi. You cannot compare with him in the field because this guy is exercising every day. So that's how your child becomes, because he's exercising his brain every day. So that's it, it's gone. So yes, it is not about how many people you bring in to support your children. It is about the foundation that you create today and how you help your child move from becoming independent, from being dependent to becoming an independent learner. So there you go. There you have it. I hope I've answered that question. There are parents who asked, how can I help my child transition from a dependent learner to an independent learner? How can I help my young child? This is it. And when you do this, you build the foundation. And as you continue to stay there, support them, this is how your children will grow. And then they become dependent. Okay, by the time they are 10, 11, they're already dependent learners, and all they need is, well, all you need is to create a system where they know that you're always there to support them. You're always there when they're struggling with anything. And if they get to a point where they don't understand the concepts, they get to a point where they're struggling with a particular concept and you can't help them, that's where the need for a scaffold comes in. Someone else to work with them. Send them back to their school, first of all. Let their teacher help them. Let their teacher support them. If their teachers can support them to get the hang of it, then you don't need anybody coming extra to come and teach your child after your child has learned for 8 hours straight in a school. All right. Except that scaffold is not enough and your child needs a more closer one. Then bring in someone to help your child for the period until your child gains stamina, and then let the person step back, because our children need to strengthen their independent learning muscles for our children to be real lifelong learners. If you have people that your child has to depend on over and over and over and over again, it stops your child from becoming someone who can direct their own learning. So a time will come in life that there will be nobody to support them. They are not able to thrive or sail as they should, because they have been used to being dependent on other people in order for them to learn. All right, so yes, there you have it. All right, we can do all of this. We can support your child and continue on this journey with you if you hop in and be a part of our mastermind circle, our peer mentorship and accountability group for young children and preteens. So yes, bring your child so that we continue to work with you. We continue to share this knowledge and tips, and we can walk this journey together with you as your children grow, especially in this phase where we are trying to build a solid foundation for them. All right, you have the information on the screen to join the new cohorts of the Mastermind Circle. You can screen grab it, okay? Or check in the comment section after this video and you will see the link and the details that you need for your child to join our program. Apart from that, we have amazing resources that will help your child. We have this Unlocking Excellence, okay? A student's guide to success beyond the classroom. All that I've talked about, the children will begin to learn this right here, knowing how to succeed, not just in school, but everywhere. We have Unlocking Excellence, beautiful, beautiful book. A parent got her copy today and she told me how amazing this book is already. We have Young and Money Smart for your young children, all right, so that we can help them build an abundant mindset. Of course, we have Wisdom Stories for Champions. This is all about family values and teaching your children how to prioritize family and how to grow in a closely knitted family. Then we have Bedtime Stories for Champions. Do you want your children to start thinking of themselves as more and as people that can impact the world already? Then they should read this amazing book. And yes, you want your children to learn to create their own play and stimulation in their environment. Your 0 to 10-year-olds, amazing book. And yes, we talked about Christmas and what Christmas was like for us. It's a legacy. Let the children just know what African culture, especially in Nigeria, and how we celebrated Christmas in the 80s and 90s. That's what this book is all about. It's not really a Christian book, it's not. All right. And then we have our two amazing parenting resources. We have this planner that you can use to write notes for your children all their life. We have templates on how to create your parenting plans in here. And then this one is my story, how I struggled in those first few years, okay, and how we were able to support our child in his first decade, our children in the first 10 years of their lives, right? Amazing book for young parents. And then, of course, we have the beautiful journal that your child can journal their emotions 365 days, the entire year. And this journal is just 3,500 naira. Thank you for joining me today. I have to go right now. We've taken a whole 13 minutes more. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. again, because we do these from Monday through Friday. Have a beautiful evening. Bye.